everyone, and welcome. My name's Tammy, and I'm excited to have you here, either watching this live with me or in the replay, however you choose to be able to have a chance to watch it or watch it both ways. But I want to begin today with this video that is focused on higher awarenesses, expanding your perspective. I know that from my own experiences and the work that I do with clients that a little shift in your awareness can make a huge shift in your life, because what you're not aware of, what you don't know, you just don't know. And when you bring it to the surface, you have the opportunity to make a choice of what you want to do with the information, with the thoughts, with the feelings, with whatever it is that you've brought forward that you can see. Fear only has power when you don't know what the fear is. So that can be another topic in itself. But we're going to focus today on the energy of guilt and freeing yourself from it. So what I'd like to do to begin with is to take a few deep breaths. And the purpose for these breaths, or the intention for them, is to help open you up and allow you to become more receptive to what wants to come in and be received by you. So let's go ahead and breathe in through our nose. And as you're inhaling in through your nose, feel your heart area opening up and becoming receptive. And then exhale out through your mouth, anything that feels heavy, tense, or constricted. And then we're going to do that another time. Inhale through your nose, feeling that expansion happening for you, and then exhaling out through your mouth, anything that's heavy. And one more breath, inhale through your nose and exhale out through your mouth. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into the energy of guilt. Now, from all the people that I've talked to, and from my own experiences with my relatives, my generational energy that's gone down through the family of being responsible to help others and to do things that sometimes just don't feel aligned with what we want to do, or they wouldn't be a choice that we'd make, but we feel that we're supposed to, from our conditioning, do whatever that thing is. So it might be take care of someone, it might be to take an action that doesn't feel really what you want to do, but it's the right action to take. And then that leads to this feeling that inside just it doesn't feel good. And often with guilt forms resentment and different emotions, lower emotions like that. So guilt is a lower emotional energy. And it's down there with shame, which usually comes from guilt. We feel shame if we do end up doing something that goes against what we thought we should, so that we wouldn't feel the guilt. So it's like a whole messy thing that a lot of people just keep perpetuating and feeling, because it just is such a normal experience for us. And so through higher guidance, because of all that I've studied and the people that I've worked with, clients, and guilt just keeps coming up. And so I asked for higher guidance. And hi, Val. Hi, Linda. Thank you for being here. So I asked for a higher guidance. What is guilt and what can we do about it, right? So what came through is that guilt is based on permission. And from the time we're little, we seek permission from others. And we seek it from our parents, to ask, can we go outside? Can we play? Can we stay up later than what, they want us to, when they want us to go to bed? We ask for permission from our teachers. This is even simple things like, can I go to the bathroom? So we get so used to having to ask other people if we can just even do normal things, for ourselves, little things. And when we grow up, we have to ask our boss for We often ask our spouse for permission, and sometimes we even ask our children for permission. So we're just so used to asking people outside of us for permission. And then if we don't get that permission, well, let's go back over to this space, is we want the permission because then we feel like we're in a space of being accepted, being loved, and having approval. And those are very important to us. And we feel like, we have to be part of things. We have to be accepted. We have to have approval, have outside people telling us it's okay, our parents, our teachers, our spouse, at our jobs. And then that all leads back to how we feel loved. Do people love us because we are doing what they want us to do? And one of the things that most people, or probably all people, don't want to experience is judgment. We make our choices often based on how somebody else will judge us. And so in that, we're looking for that permission so we know whatever it is okay, and we're accepted, and we'll be okay because we've made this choice, even though it's not a choice that feels like our soul wanted to make that choice, or our deep part of ourselves wanted to make that choice, but because it will be okay with everyone else. So guilt comes from needing that permission, because if we really don't want to do something and we say to somebody, well, I'd prefer not to do that, and they go, well, that's fine, we don't feel guilt. We feel like, oh, I'm okay with that because they said it was okay. They gave me permission to not do that thing. But if we want to not do a thing and a person goes, well, you really should, that needs to be done and you need to be the one to do it, and we feel horrible about it. We carry that around and it doesn't feel good, and ultimately that affects our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, because here we are carrying around a lack of permission from someone else that equates to guilt. So how do we shift that? We start to give ourselves permission. Now that's a very unusual thing, because again, haven't we been looking for permission from everybody else? Everybody can tell us, yes, that's okay, that's not okay, and may not feel good, but we'll say, well, okay, because that means we're still loved, we're still accepted, we're still getting approval, and we're not being judged. So how do you how do you move into that space of giving yourself permission? It takes some practice. It's a muscle building thing for sure, to start to say, hey, in this moment, I'm going to give myself permission to do this. And it's not going to matter what anyone else says about it. I'm going to be fine with it because I said that it's okay for me to make this choice. And it does take time, again, to build that muscle, especially when you're used to people around you being the ones who say, do or don't do certain things, or that it's okay or not okay. But it's very freeing when you can really start giving yourself permission and allowing yourself to say, yes, I want to do this. No, I don't want to do that. And choosing it because it feels good to you. And that may sound weird because we're not always taught to feel good, but it is about how we feel. We can only give from a heightened place of feeling good from ourselves. I mean, we can give from a lower place, but you know how that goes, and it doesn't feel really good all around. It feels much better to be in a place that feels good, to be able to make choices from and decisions from. So allowing yourself to give yourself permission and be okay with it. And that might have to start with smaller things and then move into larger experiences or choices or events, to say, well, I don't want to go to that holiday event because I'm usually miserable when I do so. Everybody around you might go, well, that's not acceptable. You must go. Even if you're miserable, you must go, because that makes complete sense. But to say, I give myself permission to not do it, to be in a place where I want to feel good, and still be able to be in a loving space from that. Because when we are looking for other people's permission, we know we don't feel good, but it's so conditioned into us that it's just what we normally do. And when you can choose for yourself more often and not look at it like there has to be something outside of you that allows you to do it, you free yourself from guilt. Then you can choose to do the thing that would make someone else happy, but you don't have to have guilt associated with it any longer, because it's not a necessary part of the choices you're making. So I have some notes here. So does this resonate with you? Have you been making choices based on those old patterns of looking for permission from other people and outside of you, and then having that feeling of guilt when you know there's a part of you that wants to do something different, but you don't want that judgment. You don't want to feel like you don't have someone's approval or acceptance or love on some level? If it does, but you're ready to start to find that freedom from having to feel any guilt, then making small choices and giving yourself permission is a great place to start. It allows you to feel more in charge of the choices that you make and to love yourself in the process, to acknowledge that you get to choose and that no one gets to determine that for you. And it is very freeing. I can tell you from personal experience that, like I mentioned, the generational energy that I came from, that was very prevalent, or at least that was what I was a takeaway. I don't know if I actually had a conversation with my grandparents or my great-grandparents that they'd say, oh yes, I feel guilt all the time. But I could see it. And I know that in conversations I've had with people, and I'm sure you can relate, that if they're not getting you to do what they want you to do, they'll try to guilt you into it. It's actually, that's part of our conditioning too, to influence people into doing what we want from a place of guilt. And when you no longer allow yourself to go into that guilt, then goodbye, Val. Then you feel differently about the way you're showing up and about your interactions with other people and those around you. And it up-levels you. It brings you to a higher place. Because like I mentioned, guilt is a low, vibrationally based energy. So it really doesn't, it doesn't feel good when you feel guilty about anything. It doesn't feel good when you feel like you're going into that guilt or into the shame after the guilt. Like if you make a choice that goes against that, then you can feel some kind of shame in there. And if you make choices based on the guilt, then you can go into like resentment or anger or those kinds of emotions, because it really wasn't what you wanted to do, but you did it out of pressure, or you did it out of supposed to's. So if you just start making smaller choices and giving yourself permission, then it continues to grow. Because at this point, I don't feel guilt for much of anything, if at all. And that may sound, oh dear, that takes people aback when I say that. Well, I don't feel guilt. They'll be like, well, why not? Like, that's a normal thing. You're supposed to feel guilt on some level, and that's completely normal. But you don't have to. And that's where having higher awareness is, and expanding your perspective and letting yourself come from a higher point of view and saying, wait a minute, what am I choosing? Because in all honesty, the only person who really needs to give you permission is you. And the only person that ever needs to really judge you is you. So when you can come from a place of going, okay, that's how I'm going to start to see it, you can change that guilt aspect. And if you want to say retrain people, recondition people to know that you're not just going to make choices based upon guilt or being forced into things that you don't want to do anymore. And if you'd like a deeper exploration with that, so say, where does that come from? Well, we base a lot of that guilt on our old programming, our old conditioning, and that comes from our emotional upbringing, our mental upbringing, what we know to be acceptable in the world. And sometimes to shift into being able to give yourself permission, some of that needs to be cleared away. The old programming, the emotions that are attached to it. And that is a journey that can be helpful with support from someone else. So if you play with this yourself and find that, or even if you're triggered too much by thinking about it, and you find that it is something that you'd like support on, then I'm happy to help. This is where my expertise is helping in shifting energy and shifting old mindsets, old programming, releasing old emotions that are no longer valid and healthy, and processing them in a way that releases you from having to keep perpetuating patterns based on them. Then I'd love for you to comment with a yes, or even private message me if you want to, and we can chat and see how we can shift you into a place of being free to release the guilt and give yourself more permission. So I'm open to any questions or any comments or anything you might want to share. I see several people in here. Hello, Brittany, Julie, Daniel, Carol, Faith. So do you have any thoughts? Do you have any questions? How do you feel about it? How's it resonating with you? Is guilt something that still is prevalent in your experience, or have you been able to come to a place where you've released more of that and can give yourself permission to make different choices and not worry about the judgment or the other aspects of it that are what we've been programmed to keep the guilt going? Oh, hi, Lisa. I thank you all for being here and joining me. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm looking over here to see the comments, but there's a little bit of a delay in the live streams from what I'm saying to what comes back. So I'm going to see if there's any comments, any additional comments. Much needed. Love the conversation. Thank you all. I hope it's helping in shifting awarenesses within you, bringing things to the surface that you might not have been thinking about. I always believe that everything's in perfect timing. So it comes up when there's a part of us that's ready to experience it, ready to heal it, ready to release it, ready to witness it or pay more attention to it. And so I know that all of you that are joining me, that are either watching live with me here or will watch the replay, there's an aspect of this that you've been waiting for, waiting to hear, waiting to bring to your attention. And I thank you for taking the time to listen, to watch, to participate, to be open to it. So great. Again, this is a muscle that you build. So if you're new to it, or it's something that still is not quite a strong aspect of your ability to make choices based on taking the guilt out of it, then I invite you to give yourself permission to take smaller steps and then turn them into bigger ones. And if it feels really uncomfortable or it's something that you could use more support in, then I invite you to contact me. Because again, this is where my expertise is in energy, in shifting energy, in healing, releasing energy, emotions, past programming, and really being able to move into a higher level of perspective, energy, vibration, and to experience your life differently. So I thank you. Again, this is Tammy, and I will see you soon.